Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Well, if the worst kept secret around the New Orleans Saints was that Kellen Moore was going to become the head coach, the next worst kept secret would be that Doug Nussmeier would be joining him in New Orleans as the team's offensive coordinator, and that appears like it is about to happen. Early on Thursday, Nick Underhill was the first to report that the team has finalized a deal with Doug Nussmeier to make him their new offensive coordinator there under Kellen Moore. So now, with your special teams coordinator, offensive coordinator in place, the only coordinator left to name will be the defensive coordinator, which we are anticipating will be Brandon Staley, but we'll have that news when we do. The Doug Nussmeier piece, it's no surprise, and I like it because of the familiarity with Kellen Moore, like we've discussed. Doug Nussmeier came into the NFL as a coach with Dallas in 2018, where he was the tight ends coach in 2018-2019. He was then promoted to quarterbacks coach in 2020 through 2022. There with Kellen Moore as the OC. And then when Kellen Moore went to the Chargers in 2023, Nussmeier went with him. When Kellen Moore went to the Eagles in 2024, Nussmeier went with him as the quarterbacks coach. So these two have coached alongside each other every year since 2018. And it is that familiarity, I think, that's probably the most appealing thing here. When Kellen Moore was introduced a week ago today, one of the things he talked about was using past relationships to build a staff.
There's tremendous value for experience when you've worked with someone, just for continuity's sake. But I think the blessing and wonderful thing that you learn is, as you go through this journey, going to Los Angeles, going to Philly, there's a lot of coaches that if I just stuck in Dallas, I would have never met, would have never got to team up with. And so you understand that as you go through this process, you're going to have an opportunity to meet and team up with coaches that maybe you haven't done it with. And they're going to be really special, and they're going to have a huge impact on us.
And there's likely going to be more coaches that he's familiar with that join the staff, like we mentioned, Brandon Staley. But I decided today to kind of dig deep a little into Doug Nussmeier's background as an offensive coordinator. And this conversation we're about to have is going to come with an asterisk because Kellen Moore is still going to call the plays. He said that as well in his opening press conference, and that's what we all anticipate is going to happen. So while, yes, Nussmeier will be the offensive coordinator, he will work hand in hand with Kellen Moore. It is still going to be Kellen Moore's team, Kellen Moore's offense, Kellen Moore calling plays. But if we go back and look at Doug Nussmeier's experience as an offensive coordinator, quite honestly, it's not very good. If we're just calling a spade here. Doug Nussmeier has never been an OC in the NFL, and he was an offensive coordinator in college every year from 2008 through 2017. In 2008 at Fresno State, the Bulldogs finished 37th in total offense. Next year, he goes to Washington. He's the Washington OC for 3 years, 2009, 10, and 11. By the way, the 2009 offense faced LSU. Remember that game up in Seattle. Their offenses in 3 years went from 70th to 96th, then to 25th in 2011. He goes to Alabama in 12 and 13. We know Alabama won the national championship in 2012, and they finished 12th and 17th in the country in total offense. That was by far the high water mark for Doug Nussmeier as an OC. After 2013, he goes to Michigan for one season. They were 112th in the country in total offense. Gone. Then he goes to Florida for 3 years, 2015, 16, and 17. All 3 years, they were in the triple digits in total offense. 100th, 107, 109. They got worse each year. So from 2008 to 2017, it's 10 years, 10 consecutive seasons that Doug Nussmeier was an offensive coordinator. 4 of the 10 years, they finished 100. His offenses were 100th or worse. And he also had offenses finishing 70th and 96th. So 6 of the 10, they were in the bottom half of the country. The 2 best years he had with Alabama, which Candidly, under Nick Saban, I could probably have gone call plays, and we'd have been pretty good. It's not to say Doug Nussmeier is a bad offensive coordinator. I don't mean to say that. I'm just laying out there all the info and the data points so we have it. He was an offensive coordinator for 10 years in college football, and it wasn't great. But he got a lot of big-time jobs. From that point on, he became an NFL position coach, coaching tight ends with the Cowboys for 2 years, then quarterbacks, which he's coached for the last 4 years, and now an offensive coordinator in the NFL for the first time. So, look, there's a lot to like about this hire. And I've expressed that. Like, I'm good with this hire because it is still Kellen Moore's offense. Kellen Moore is going to call plays. It's his offense. So what I really want is someone around Kellen Moore who he's comfortable with that's going to help nurture and develop ideas and support and all those sorts of things. Someone whose eyes and mind he trusts. Not that dissimilar from old Sneaky Pete. I mean, Sean Payton, it was his offense. Pete Carmichael was the OC and was a really good ally for Sean Payton. It feels very similar here with Nussmeier as an ally to Kellen Moore, a trusted lieutenant. And when you look at the offensive staff, at least the top of it right now, Kellen Moore, Doug Nussmeier, Scott Tolzien, head coach, offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. All three were NFL quarterbacks that didn't have great NFL careers, but all three were NFL quarterbacks. So you've got a lot of experience, NFL experience, quarterback experience, and synergies among a staff where these guys know each other pretty well. I like that. I also like, and this is ancillary, I don't think this matters tremendously, but I do like that Doug Nussmeier has ties to New Orleans and to Louisiana. We know that he was drafted by the New Orleans Saints in 1994, played quarterback for the Saints. He met his wife, Christy, when he lived here. She is from Lake Charles. Garrett, as we know, was born in Lake Charles. So you have a lot of synergies that make sense here with this hire, both with Kellen Moore's relationship with Doug Nussmeier's relationship and familiarity with the organization, the city, the state, a lot of those ties there. And as we'll continue to say, though, your head coach and your staff are a part of the equation. They're a big part of the equation. But the bigger part for the New Orleans Saints moving forward is less about Kellen Moore or Doug Nussmeier or Scott Tolzien or Brandon Staley, any of that. It's going to be about this front office pushing the reset button on the roster, getting your cap in order, acquiring draft capital, respecting your draft capital instead of constantly trading up, expending future draft capital to be aggressive to go get a player that you think is going to help you win now. The sooner this organization realizes they're not close to winning and they're willing to be patient to go through a rebuild and build this thing brick by brick, the sooner they acknowledge that, the sooner the Saints are going to get back to being a competitive team. And I hope that's under Kellen Moore with this staff as it's assembled. And I hope it's sooner than later. But while I like the Doug Nussmeier hire, and I think it makes a lot of sense, there are reasons to question it. He's never been an NFL OC. And when he was a college OC for 10 years, it wasn't great. But as an asset, a resource, an ally, a sounding board for Kellen Moore, I like it a lot. What I got to see, though, is changes in the roster. Changes in the roster, patience with this staff to rebuild it as you rebuild your roster. But that's more on Mickey Loomis and this front office than it is on Kellen Moore or Doug Nussmeier. But Saints have their OC. It's Doug Nussmeier. Wait for the official announcement from New Orleans, but apparently it is done. Doug Nussmeier will be the Saints offensive coordinator as expected. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.